Today in the Nerdy Gritty, how can the upcoming Netflix video gaming service set itself apart?
One more world disappears inside it. Just another hopeless addict. Well, they make some man instead. If the drums don't get you, the guitars will.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back for the first time, to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I am your podcast original, Fox.
For $15.99 a month, I will mail you Dez, but now that's kind of obsolete, so now you can just stream Dez.
Does Netflix still do
Yes,
that?
they still mail
That's amazing.
discs.
That's
It's
awesome.
a very, very tiny part.
It's called Grandpa's Only.
Yeah,
It's called
exactly.
the Grandpa's Only edition.
Well, there are some
and they
things that...
exclusively give you World War II documentaries.
Anyway, hey, this weekend, something that I think you and I are both a little bit excited for, and for very different reasons.
Sure.
There's a movie releasing this week.
Yeah.
Jungle Cruise.
Jungle Cruise. I'm looking forward to it. I think.
Are you really?
I'm legitimately like. It looks like a fine, fun adventure movie.
And then it's got Emily Blunt. I like Emily
Great.
Blunt.
The Rock is charming.
Yeah,
He's
sure.
a charming, fun
He's
actor.
fine.
He's not gonna be super serious like dramatic man in this.
To
He's
me,
gonna be fun.
It's
adventure
tough
man.
for me having Emily Blunt next to Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
I think it'll work well.
I think it'll work well too.
It'll work well.
I think it'll work well because she's Emily Blunt and can make anything work
And
well.
he's got charisma out the
He
freaking
does.
wazoo.
I hate that. I have to admit it. He really does.
He has so much charisma.
He is like 70% muscle and 30% charisma, and that's
how you
the
make,
Rock.
That's how you make
That's
the
how you
Rock.
make
That's
a
how you
Rock.
make Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
But more than anything, Disney ride-based movies haven't
Yeah.
always been the best.
They don't have a great hit rate.
Yeah, it's been like Pirates of the Caribbean, and that's it.
That's about it.
yeah,
And only the first one.
Yeah, only the first one.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try here. We're gonna try a couple of Disney rides, and we're gonna try and pitch our own movie versions of these rides. So
Let's hold on. Let's get at the other Disney ride movies out of the way first.
okay?
There is a Tomorrowland movie.
Yes, but that's for a whole land.
Sure.
not for
a
any
region,
individual
yeah,
rides,
An
yeah.
area, and it was not.
Do you want me to walk you through a map of Disneyland? Because I can walk you through a map
No,
of Disneyland
no.
in my
I'm
head
saying
right
that
now.
One, that one's, I guess, similar. It's not a specific ride, but it was not well received. Obviously, got Pirates, very well received, and then they made more.
Yeah,
And then
too
you
many,
have
too many.
Haunted Mansion.
My mansion.
I don't remember if people like that or not. I never saw it.
It was not good.
Eddie Murphy, yeah.
Yeah, it was not.
I think
good.
it was more of an Eddie Murphy vehicle than like a legitimate movie.
right.
But and then I think that's it.
That's it for rides that have been made into
Ride-specific.
movies.
Yeah, the ride to
there are lots of
movie.
movies that have been made into rides. Of course.
lots of Disney rides that are based on the movies.
Yeah,
they-
hang on, let me take a walk around Disneyland in my brain real quick. Yeah, that's as far as I
Anywhere else, I'm the one who has to get us around. But if we're at Disneyland, then you are the master. I'll
we
put
could
a
be
blindfold
we
on
could
you.
literally walking behind, like outside, like around, beach and ball and the streets around Disneyland, and I could point to buildings and say, that's the actual Indiana Jones ride.
There you go. Yeah.
See that it's got it's kind of painted green. It looks like a normal old office
Anyway,
building.
let's get back
That's
to
the Indiana Jones ride.
to the ride thing.
So let's start with Space Mountain.
Space Mountain.
Okay, so here's kind of the basic theming of Space Mountain. You're in a rocket in space.
In space.
And that's it.
That I actually think is a perfectly fine like blast off point for a movie.
So here's the
A
question
space
though.
adventure movie.
But why is it a mountain? So that's where this has to come in.
Ooh.
I think it's called a mountain because the actual ride itself looks like this kind of metal mountain.
Sure, and it's
right?
and they have a theme of they have mountain rides.
Right. There are a lot of mountain rides.
Yeah.
There's the 3 mountains, but
Right.
in Disneyland. But so how do we take the Space Mountain and make a film out of that?
Well, I mean, it's a mountain. It's a space adventure movie where they go to a planet and have to, like there's a mountain there for some reason.
Okay.
I mean, there's a real basic like you found a mountain on a. They go to Mars and have to explore the big volcano there.
Here's I like where you said adventure, that word, because let's lean into that. Let's make this a classic adventure film,
Sure,
a la Indiana
right.
Jones,
Yeah.
a la Jungle Cruise, but let's just set it in space.
Yeah.
So let's have because the whole, the natives are restless thing is pretty rough.
Yeah. Also, nobody cares.
Right. But if it's Martians, like the Martian natives are, it's a little bit different.
I
when you do
guess.
things like that.
Sure.
That's basically how the movie Avatar lives, is is having these stereotypes, but saying they're aliens, not
sure,
whatever
yeah,
else,
and he's
so
a
it's
white
okay.
savior, except he doesn't look white, so
Right.
he's allowed to
So it's
save
different,
them.
right?
Yeah.
So that's basically how Avatar gets away with all of this.
Ugh.
So let's say it's and what's in the mountain? Why do they? Why is the mountain important?
I mean, the easy part is like there's some kind of resource. There's some easy like
That's too
the
Avatar-y,
invaders.
though.
Oh well, whatever,
Unobtainium.
I understand unobtainium or the Black Panther. The vibranium. There's a
Vibranium.
mountain of that.
No,
stuff
I want to
there.
lean harder into the adventure side of this. I want it to be a magical object, like some sort of like
The orb of
of
Claramatsu.
Osavox.
Yeah,
that's a that's a
you just throw some letters into a
Yeah.
into a shaker and then come out whatever's there.
and they have to retrieve it for. So they're going to Space Mountain. So Dwayne the Rock Johnson is going to Space
Sure,
Mountain, to this mountain in space, and there are like natives on this planet that are good. Oh no! Here it is. I got it. I got the movie right here.
Okay,
Ready?
let's hear it.
Jeff Bezos' substitute, not Jeff Bezos, but Jeff Bezos' substitute.
Oh.
They find out that's why he really went to space.
Yes, to mine a
in
resource.
his flying, interesting
yeah,
spaceship.
the Earth person. If there's a human, they have to be the villain or literally along for the ride.
So
you can't just do a non-native here to save the day for
Right.
the natives. Like that's played out and terrible.
So basically like kind of like Independence Day, but backwards. I want the aliens to be the good guys in this. And,
Sure.
and Jeff Bezos' substitute lands on this planet looking for the orb of Space Mountain, and they have to protect it from the evil invader.
The evil money man.
We did it. Fox, we've got some stuff to talk about in the news. We'll let you start.
Yeah, last week there was news that we talked about. I don't know when originally it happened, but we talked about a little bit that the state of California is suing Activision Blizzard
Right.
for basically a toxic work culture described as basically like a fraternity culture.
Very misogynistic.
Very
essentially.
misogynistic, women being constantly harassed and just subjected to just a terrible place to be women. And since we talked about it very briefly and only in like very like just kind of the response from Activision
Right,
Blizzard.
right.
Since all this has happened, there's been so much in response.
But just to be clear, because we said, hey, they're suing, but Activision Blizzard has come back and said it was a really poor investigation.
Sure.
So we don't really know what's going on. By the time you heard that podcast,
Yes.
all this stuff had come
There
out,
were
and
100
what
more
we said was
things.
already outdated.
Is already irrelevant.
Yes.
Because
So now it is clear.
Yes.
It's pretty clear now.
I'm gonna go through a few things that have happened since then. Let's see. The biggest one, in my opinion, was that Activision Blizzard employees. This is the title of a article from Polygon. Activision Blizzard employees call leadership response to harassment suit abhorrent and insulting. And basically, they said this through a letter that 800 employees of Blizzard have signed.
That is ridiculous.
And sent out and made public, just basically saying, hey, this place is terrible. Like the
you're doing
culture
poorly.
you've created. Let's see. We, the undersigned, agree that the statements from Activision Blizzard Inc. and their legal counsel regarding the lawsuit, as well as the subsequent internal statement from Francis Townsend, are abhorrent and insulting to all that we believe our company should stand for. To put it clearly and unequivocally, our values as employees are not accurately reflected in the words and actions of our leadership. That's at the beginning of it. But basically, hey, what you're saying is wrong, and this is not a good place. Like there are terrible things. 800 employees have signed that letter, that open letter.
It makes me wonder if we were to take that on a percentage, like how many employees does Activision Blizzard have?
I mean, they're massive. There might be one of the biggest gaming company. Like
Right.
That's huge.
So I'm literally guessing here. I'm just pretending. Let's pretend it's 10,000. Then that's like nearly 10%.
I'm gonna Google it real. Activision Blizzard employee count. Let's see if we can find out real quick. Oh, approximately 10,000 employees.
Holy crap!
According to LinkedIn, let's see, operations throughout the world with approximately 10,000 employees.
That's 1 out of every 10 people
That's
that wanted to
almost a
speak up
10%,
and
yeah.
say, yes, this is bad.
These are
That-
those are
that
just
doesn't
the ones
include
that
people
signed it.
who said, I don't want to get involved, people who didn't know this was going around,
Yes.
people who disagree or whatever. Like, holy crap. Like,
When nearly 8% of your workforce, no matter what,
8%.
that's a significant. They're not just
are
saying,
willing to be vocal about
they're
this.
not just saying, it's not my favorite place. They're saying this is like a toxic work culture where you are actively harassing your employees.
Yes.
That is a bold statement. And for 8% of your employees to have no problem publicly stating that, that's a sign, guys.
Yes.
So that's a big deal. That's a huge one that came out as a result of this. Some gaming websites and YouTube channels have just said, "Hey, we're not going to cover any Activision or Blizzard games."
Oh, that's awesome.
Including let's see, this also falls, or they've also stopped doing some Ubisoft things also because Ubisoft also has a pretty terrible place.
Yeah.
Let's see, Prima Games, best known for producing comprehensive strategy guides, which used to be a standard for
Yeah,
me. I'd
I
buy
still
a
have
Final
some.
Fantasy and then buy the Prima guide for it. They're now mostly online, of course. They are not making guides for Ubisoft or Activision or
Dang.
Blizzard anymore. Gaming news and analysis site The Gamer will halt coverage of Activision Blizzard. YouTube channel Game Explain, which I've been on Game Explain a few times. Not I've visited the YouTube channel. They are stopping coverage of it. They put out a lot of stuff. Like there are some pretty big new outlets that are just saying, well, nah, we'll just wait till this is all over. But you don't deserve this right now.
Right.
Which is, I think, a pretty good. I mean, it's not like there's not other games to talk about.
Oh, 100%. It's almost a like, cool. There's some things off my plate there.
Right.
So
And then this is another thing that's come out like today or very recently, is that a former developer from a Q&A session at BlizzCon 2010 tweeted about a there's a clip from a Q&A at BlizzCon 2010 where I'm just going to describe it real quick. A young woman basically asked, "Hey, I love what you do, but also we going to be able to play as characters that don't look like they just walked out of her words are that they don't look like they've walked out of the
Victoria's
Secret catalog. Thank you." And she's basically just mocked in public and
Right.
and just derided a lot of people in the audience,
including the panel.
as well as the people on the panel just kind of make fun of her and half-heartedly say, "Yeah, we'll try to do better," but then just make fun of it more.
Yeah.
And it's just the most heartbreaking thing. Like, and what this demonstrates is this ain't new, guys. This isn't somebody took over last year and now it's bad. It's 11 years later and this kind of crap is still happening. And that's, man, it's rough.
It's one of those things where you don't just stop and wonder how this culture existed, like how it perpetuated, how it lasted for so long.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of things, now it's one of those things where we as consumers have to make a choice on if we're okay with this or not.
Right.
And, if there's somebody, you got a friend who's just like a jerk, and you get to decide if you want to spend time with this person anymore or not.
Yeah.
It's the same type of thing. You get to make this option of, hey, I recognize you're a bad person now, and I recognize that what you've been doing is wrong, and therefore I'm not a customer of yours anymore.
Sure.
And yeah, I wholeheartedly support that.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple like idea of boycott.
Yeah.
I don't agree with your practices or I'm not going to support you. It's very simple. It's happened for decades, years, centuries.
What's bonkers to me is there are going to be so many people out there that are going to say,
Oh.
why do we have to get political about this? Why does this? Why can't we just make games and play games or whatever?
I
else?
laugh because it's just funny to me that somebody's saying, "Hey, this place demeaned me and harassed me because I'm a woman," will get met with, "Stop being political."
Right.
So what do you think political means? What do you think that word means? And it's just so frustrating because that absolutely already is a response.
Right.
But yeah, so I think it's a good opportunity to just say, no, I'm going to play Final Fantasy 14 instead of WoW.
Yep.
I'm going to play Valorant instead of Overwatch.
Yep.
Sure, they might be less good, but you are, as far as we know, not going to be supporting some terrible company and their terrible business practices.
I also think this is a time where we can clearly see how gaming is different than so many other industries, because we as the consumers
Actually, don't play Valorant. That's a Riot Games thing,
Oh,
and
yep.
Riot's also. It's a real problem, guys.
But a lot of people feel like personally affected by this.
Yes.
Not just like, oh, that was a company I supported, I don't want to support it anymore, but like, hey, you held a special place in my heart,
Right.
and I feel personally insulted by
right.
this now.
I've grown up playing your games, and now you've done this
Right.
kind of thing. Like,
And so hopefully this will be a big message to other developers to either continue the good work they're doing or to take a real good hard look at what's been going on and change now.
I think it's also just more evidence that unionization needs to take place within the video game industry. 800 people being able to like actively strike, the union that represents Blizzard being able to strike would give them a lot more legal protection rather than taking the risk of, we're just not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Okay, you're fired. Like, the unions provide some protection. I think that would be very helpful in this situation.
I'll be honest, for a long time, and we'll get mildly political here, I have been somebody who's been on the fence of unions. Like, man, sometimes they're harmful, sometimes they're helpful.
Oh,
whatever.
100%.
And then
Police unions are bad.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, especially as a sports fan, like the
Sure.
MLBPA and things like that. Like, but at the same time, you see things like this, and oh my gosh, it's so necessary.
Right. They don't have any
You
any
need
bargaining
this.
power in this
Yes.
situation, and it leads to things like this without being able to respond
So
in a big
it's
way.
almost like unions don't suck or are awesome, but people suck or are
Right.
awesome.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, obviously it's not a black or white. If you're
Yeah.
in a union, it's always good.
Yeah.
Let's get into what we've been into, and to be just a little disclaimer here. I'm going out of town for a couple of days, and so we're actually recording this earlier than we would usually.
Yeah.
So we've got less to talk about here. I watched a wonderful movie this weekend. I think I've talked to you about it, maybe impersonally or whatever. It's a movie called Pig.
Oh yeah.
Nicolas Cage plays a
Pig.
Yeah, he plays a pig. It's a fun, wacky. No, it is a movie about a man who lives out in the woods. It's actually filmed all in Portland and surrounding area. It's wonderful. It's fun to like see. Oh yeah,
Yeah, I know what that
They're
is,
talking
yeah.
about Pioneer Square.
Yeah.
I've been there. But it's about Nicolas Cage. He plays a guy who lives out in the woods with his truffle pig and basically finds truffles and sells and trades them for supplies to live on his own out there. And his pig gets stolen. And the movie is about him trying to get the pig back.
It's a John Wick sequel, and Nicolas Cage just gets all the guns. and-
You're joking.
yeah.
It is not.
Right.
It sounds exactly like it's literally sounds like what the movie is. It felt like somebody saw John Wick and said, "Let's do that," but where you genuinely like the John Wick character is a much more sympathetic person and not action man. This movie, I don't want to ruin everything. I think everybody and their mother should watch it. To
All
me, it
right.
is the best movie of the year so far.
Wow.
It should Nicolas Cage should win awards for this.
Really?
Unironically, I'm not the only one who thinks this. It's getting
Right,
extremely good reviews, but it is wonderful, mostly because it sets up a lot of what you would expect in a revenge movie,
Mhm.
and then undercuts them, or not undercuts, but like just turns it on it zags when you thought it was gonna zig, you know.
Mhm.
And it just does things where it's kind of, I've heard it described as an anti-revenge movie.
Interesting.
Like there's a an anti hero. It's an anti-revenge movie, and it's so good, and you genuinely care for the characters, especially Nicolas Cage.
You don't
And
have to give anything away,
I
but
won't.
that sounds kind of like what we're praising Ted Lasso
Yes, it is. It is right in the same vein where it has all these opportunities to be something much more like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get my pig back, and it'd be like a goofy Nicolas Cage movie,
for. Right.
and it's the opposite. You can see there's character growth. There's part of it where it's Not really about Nick. It's like Ferris Bueller's Day Off isn't really about Ferris Bueller. It's more about Cameron and his growth.
Right.
It's kind of like that. There's another character in it who has more of an arc, even though Nicolas Cage absolutely has a character arc and has wonderful growth in it. And it's so good. It's understated. It doesn't have to over explain everything. It's a wonderful movie, and you should see it, and everybody listening should see it.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe I will.
It's great.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Pig. It's funny because Nicolas Cage is one of those guys that, to me, he's like John Malkovich, where he won an award once, but then when I look back on that, they won an award that one time for being themselves.
Sure.
They were the best actor for acting themselves. And then anything else I see them in, that's John Malkovich. That's Nicolas Cage.
Sure.
You're John Malkovich in a Three Musketeers costume.
Right.
now.
Right.
You're Nicolas Cage in a superhero costume now, or whatever. But
he was almost Superman. I don't know if you know that.
Oh no, yeah. What was it called? Anyway, there was the
Whatever.
Tim Burton Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you should see some of the videos
It's
of the behind
terrible.
the scene. They look ridiculous.
Anyway,
But it's cool to hear him.
part
doing
he
good work.
has talked
Yeah.
about. He's like, I wanted to kind of remind people that I can do what I can do. You know,
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah.
And he did. He succeeded.
The other show I've been watching is a documentary show called Behind the Attraction, which is also part of why I wanted to do our intro today. Is Behind the Attraction is documentaries, 45-minute documentaries on Disneyland rides.
Okay.
And
Sounds like right up your alley.
yeah, and it's just how they work now. It's on Disney Plus, so they're going to be pretty cleaned up. So if you watch things like Defunct Land, which also has a lot of ride documentaries,
Sure. Yeah.
they get into the very real Kevin Perjurer, the documentarian, gets into a lot of the real
Things happening.
yeah,
behind
going
the
on.
Scenes. Yeah.
But this is much more bright, funny, but also they don't too much like gloss over things. Like there was a Jungle Cruise one,
Okay.
and they just straight up say at one point that they were like, and there was some pretty stereotyped jokes that are no longer acceptable,
right.
and now they're being removed.
That have changed. Yeah.
Yeah, and things like that. And so they don't just ignore things. It's very quickly mentioned and moved on with, but there's one for that. There's one for, it's 5 different rides. It's like Jungle Cruise, Haunted Mansion, Space Mountain, Tower of Terror, and one other, I can't remember, dang it. Anyway, they're fascinating and they're wonderful. And of course, anything with Disney is going to have these people with imaginations that are just outlandishly awesome.
Sure.
Just these idea makers that are great. And so like one of the things was for the Tower of Terror one that I watched, they went to an actual elevator place and they're like, hey, how do we make an elevator fall without being stopped?
Yeah.
And so they go and they talk and they take them up to this 30-story building and they get the elevator to free fall, but then safely stop toward the bottom. And they get off the elevator and they say, that was too slow. How do we make this faster? Tower of Terror has a cable on the top and on the bottom, and it's on a loop system. It pulls you down.
Oh, it's not just
and
drop.
pulls you back up. Like it's not a free fall.
Huh.
They pull you down
that free
because
fall-
it's not
Free
fast
fall is
enough.
not fast enough. Huh.
So it's little facts like this, or there's a tree that's known as, I already forgot. I want to say it's the Dominguez tree or something like that.
Sure.
Anyway, when they were building Jungle Cruise, they didn't have like many exotic plants or whatever. And so one of the things that they had a very specific landscaping guy for Disneyland. He drove around like Beverly Hills to houses and he said, that plant looks exotic.
Can I have
pulls
your-
over, knocks on a door
Give
and
me
says,
your tree.
can I have that tree? Well, one of them was a couple got married and they were gifted a palm tree and then they kind of didn't want it anymore. It was like their white elephant. And so they then gave it to Disneyland and it's still there to this day. And it's like 40 feet tall.
That's cool.
As you're walking through Adventureland, you can see it like as you come in. It's this giant palm tree.
That's
so,
fun.
Yeah, it's just little facts like that. Super cool. If you are a Disney fan like I am, or if you just like little behind the scenes things, absolutely watch Behind the Attraction. It's real fun. All right. Well, that's what I got.
That's all I got too.
Well, let's get down to the nerdy gritty.
Fine. Let's do it.
Hey, before we do that, really quickly, I just want to let you know you're listening to an edited version of the Nerdy Gritty. Everything before this has been cut down to make it a little more palatable, a little bit faster for the casual listener, which is fine. That's awesome. But if you want to hear the unedited version,
You want the real stuff.
the director's cut of the Nerdy Gritty, you can head over to patreon.com/DesertFox and become one of our patrons. And at tier 2 or higher, you get access to the director's cut of the Nerdy Gritty. At tier 1, you get what's the word? Dang it. Access. That's what I was looking
There you
for.
go.
Yeah. Access to all of our Patreon stuff, including an entire playlist of our videos called The Bargain Bin, which has never been on our YouTube channel. And it's things like that.
It's us playing extremely cheap, mostly very bad games.
Yeah, but having a lot of fun doing
having
it.
fun.
Yeah. So if you can do that, we really appreciate your support on Patreon. If that's not something you can do, we just appreciate your support whatever way you can give it. And the main way is by word of mouth. Telling people that you know, hey, listen to the Nerdy Gritty. These guys have some pretty cool things to say, or they have some terrible things to say, and it made me so mad, you should listen to it too.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
You can hate listen. That's fine.
Yeah. Make other people listen to our podcast. Force them. Tie them down.
Use torture.
Yeah, put stuff in their
Like we
ears.
said before, it
Yeah.
always works.
So, anyway, thank you guys for listening. Let's truly get down to the Nerdy Gritty now.
It has recently been announced that Netflix, the
That
one you
Netflix.
get those DVDs in the mail from, is going to start adding video game services to their programming. To within, I think the next year is by the end of 2022 is the goal for video games to be added as a service to the Netflix subscription program.
Right.
What we want to talk about today is there are a lot of video game services out there. How can Netflix set itself apart from other video game services in order for this to be successful with people who play video games? Because they're going to need to do something special.
Right.
So before we get into that, let's talk about a little bit of what they said. There has not been a lot of info about what they plan to do. They don't have any games announced. They don't have any. Basically, all they've said is we've hired this person who used to be an Electronic Arts executive as well as a Facebook Inc. executive, who have both thrown their hat. Obviously, Electronic Arts makes video games. Facebook has made a lot of video games. Gaming is part of their platform in mostly a kind of digital, or not digital, but like in Facebook browser kind of way. That's what they've done. They said there's no plan to actually increase the price of Netflix with this.
That's cool.
Which is surprising, because it feels like it'd be something
Yeah.
they need to pay more for. But other than that, it's mostly just a plan we're going to be building up our team and putting out games. I believe they've also said that they will have exclusive games that they will have unique to their service. Other than that, that's all we've gotten so far. So what we want to talk about today, like we said, is how can they do this in a way that doesn't just say we have games now, but says here's why you should be playing Netflix games as opposed to other services. So I don't know. Let's just jump right in. Is there any way that I think what we need to talk about is what is unique to their service or to the streaming service in general, that they can take advantage of?
To me, the number one thing, and I think this is probably one that a lot of people have thought of, but that I think would just set them apart and also be very popular, episodic content.
That's literally first on my list.
Yep, that's good. I first on everybody's list.
Yeah.
But so the reason why I think that what Netflix does currently with their TV shows, that's a poor idea, but most other streaming services like Disney Plus and Apple TV or whatever else do really well, is Netflix will drop an entire season at once.
They drop it for a binge session.
Yeah, and you can binge it all, whereas everybody else, it's once a week.
Yes. For the most part. Sometimes it really depends on the popularity.
But that allows for you to watch that one episode, to experience that one part of it, then go discuss it with everyone.
Right.
Talk about it. Give theories. Give suggestions.
Look
give
forward to the next one.
All this stuff. Otherwise, it's just you get everything there done. You got all the
Yeah.
answers that are there.
Right.
There's not a lot of discussion that can be done. And I think the ability to interact with the show
Yes.
will make it even greater.
100%.
So now you have this episodic content where you can go in and play 2 hours, and then this cutscene happens and it just cuts off right there.
To be
Boom.
continued. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing else after that. And huge opportunity for people to go and talk and converse and to again to guess what's going to happen next and to build hype. You get weekly hype at that point, and it's just I'm into that, man.
No,
I'm
that
real
would
into
that would be a big boost to the game itself. Like episodic games have been a thing.
right.
You can play, you know, like a lot of what's the not Traveler's Tales, but Telltale games. They have, you know, every couple months the next episode comes out, but there's a long wait in between those.
Right.
And it weekly drops. Every Friday the new episode of whatever it is comes out would keep a like it does with the show with shows, keep like this hype going, which I think could be used in a constructive way. Sometimes hype is just we want you to get excited for this next product, but if you are interacting with it, that's really going to change. And I think something that would be really interesting to do is like a Mass Effect style, so many different choices that can alter your game as you play.
Oh, interesting.
So when you finish that episode, you go and talk to your friend and you have wildly different games that you just played. And I think to capitalize on that, I don't think they would, because I don't know. I think you do a one save file only.
Okay.
You get to play it once, essentially. Or you have to delete it, and you can't just like a Pokemon style thing.
Right.
Where you have one save file, you play it, you can start over, I guess, but you have one side. I just want people to make the choices and have to live with them, I guess, is what I'm saying, to give you some like buy-in into what's going on.
I think that on that note, and we're now conversing about the possibility of something, so I don't want to get too deep into this. But
but that's what I'm saying. I think a Netflix thing could do
Right.
this.
But I think something like they almost like Resident Evil, where they beat the game, and then after they beat it one time with one save file, then afterward they say, "Would you like to play the other chapters now? Would you like to play through the other possibilities?
Yeah.
Now that you've played through it once,
Right,
and
right,
made all
right.
your choices, now would you like to just kind of play around in this?
Oh yeah,
space?
no, I'm not advocating that. You played it once and now it's deleted from
Done.
You can no longer see it. That would not be good.
No.
But yeah, some kind of real just like encouragement to make those choices and commit to what's going on, and to just allow for various outcomes so that you can go and talk to somebody and say, like you could do with Mass Effect, "Oh, I did that mission and this person died." What?
Yeah.
I didn't even play that mission. What are you talking about? Like, that would be a super fun way to keep the hype going and, you know, just get that water cooler talk going on.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really fun.
I am into episodic content. I
Yeah.
really am. Another thing I think would be really cool is they're already known as a streaming service.
Yeah.
They should get into streaming. So game
100%.
streaming, very, very much so. But then at this point, because they are going to have the gaming and the streaming in the same place, they could do things like, I see you're struggling in this point. Would you like to watch somebody else playing this right now?
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to watch somebody else who got through this
just have the
part?
option to watch somebody. Yeah.
And do it
okay.
right. So it pauses your game for you,
Sure.
and then it just brings that stream right up on your screen. That would have been so helpful. I just finally beat House of Da Vinci,
Oh,
and
yeah.
which I didn't talk about. I don't know why I didn't talk about that.
That's all
Probably
right.
I didn't talk about it because the ending was underwhelming to me.
Oh, okay.
The puzzles got too convoluted, too hard. It was something like 15 steps ago that was this minor detail that was key to the final puzzle or whatever.
Fun.
And no, not yeah. And I had to look it up. And with me, I wanted to know why. Like, why is that the solution? I found like 6 walkthroughs that just said this is the answer, but nobody said why that was the answer.
Interesting.
And so I finally found a random, it was like PC Games Walkthrough.nl.
Ooh.
One
from the
random person that
Netherlands,
said
maybe.
why. And that finally is what was like, oh, geez. But all this to say, if I was on that final puzzle and I was struggling, instead of that hint button coming up in the corner, which just makes me want to punch everything, instead of that, it's just something that says, hey, would you like to watch somebody else's walkthrough of this?
Sure.
And I hit yes. And I don't have to open a new browser. I don't have to go anywhere else. It just brings that up right there, that plays it. And then it says, are you satisfied or are you good? And you click yes, and then it goes right back to your game.
Sure.
That would be incredible.
In that same vein, basically make it a streaming platform like Twitch where you can watch other people as they're playing the game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'm not saying like we're watching somebody at their computer playing, like it's just basically be able to treat the gameplay as a show that you're watching. And you can find content creators or players who you like watching. The games that you make them very story oriented, like Netflix is supposed to be. Like Netflix they have reality content and like comedians and stuff like that, but it's about storytelling when you're watching a show. So maybe I don't want to play the video games, but I want to watch somebody play this game. Have that as an option, just to be able to watch somebody play through it or watch the video of them playing it, the VODs or something like that. Just add that as a service as well. And I think that just adds to your content as well as, gives some more interactability. And, I think that would be it would be strange if they didn't add that now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
It seems like a no-brainer on that one.
Well, especially if they were to do something like watch the stars of Stranger Things play the Stranger Things video.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
You
you have lots of opportunities to have the people in your shows.
Like here's one that could happen and should happen. Watch Henry Cavill play The Witcher. Dude loves PC gaming.
Yes.
And he's the star of their Witcher Netflix series.
100%.
I'd watch the crap out of that.
100%. In that vein, I was going to suggest tie-in games. I'm gonna play it's a Witcher visual novel or something like that doesn't have anything. I mean, they'll probably have it tie into the game, so you want to watch it all, but make it something that's to the side, like some adventure he went on, or here's what happened in between the episodes that isn't necessary but is fun to watch, or something like that, where you have these properties already. Why not take advantage of that and continue? I mean, there's going to be some licensing issues, but you have a lot of original content. Stranger Things is a great one. You can just watch some Stranger Things, games or add in some adventure games or puzzle games or something.
Yeah.
That why I say adventure games and puzzle games, I don't think you should focus on the hardcore gaming crowd.
Right.
With
I agree.
This is kind of tangential, but it is a casual service. It is something people watch to relax, to unwind. They get into the shows, but I think the video games for the most part should follow in that vein of I'm going to play this fun game and use it as a way to relax.
I mean, I think even something in the Telltale Games vein where you it's the side stories, so here's the Witcher, but then you're talking about that Witcher prequel anime coming out.
Sure.
What if it was something instead of an anime, it's a Telltale game thing?
100%.
And you get to, I mean, I remember when Telltale Games, people used to have play parties where people would come over to a house and you would play through it together, and other people would just be watching the story being created.
Yeah.
You could do that now in a Telltale Games style thing where everybody comes over in the same way they'd come over to watch a show with you. Well, now they're watching a show with you, but you also happen to be making choices in this show.
Yeah.
What I will say though is please do not do a live action choose your own adventure type thing. That gets kind of cheesy and played out.
But I want it.
Why?
Put it Night Trap 2.
It's cheesy, it's played out, and usually, unless you're willing to commit the money, it ends up being low budget and poor production, because you're essentially recording 5 episodes and then letting that be 1 episode.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this is a great opportunity for the reformation of a Telltale Games.
Yes.
Hire a bunch of employees from Telltale create Tall Tale Games. They were exclusively making games that were licensed IP tie-ins.
Yeah.
Which you have. Like, this is a perfect opportunity. They're very well designed for watch party type things. Like, again, this feels like a no-brainer. Like,
it could be played with a remote control on a TV.
Yes. That was my next thing. Let's move on a little bit.
Yeah.
My next thing is very low hardware costs, if any. Let us play with our phones.
Yeah.
Let us play with the control, like, some basic games like a Telltale could be played with a controller that comes with your TV already. Like, the less cost investment there's going to be, the more buy-in you're going to get.
Right.
And that, I mean, that's just seems to be a general like rule of, marketing. But like, if you're trying to attract people over to Netflix because they have games now, sure, you're going to get a lot of people who already have Netflix and already interact with it. But if there are games that people want to play because they like playing video games, then saying, hey, you just have to have a Netflix subscription and don't have to buy a new controller, that's going to make it way easier for people to jump right in.
Right.
So yeah, allow us to play it with the devices we already have. And I think allowing us to play on the devices that Netflix, so phone, tablet, TV, computer, like if you can play it basically anywhere you can watch Netflix, boom, you've got a mobile service already.
Yeah.
Like it's a huge opportunity.
And I would even say to balance the two a little bit, because there are going to be people who want to play some hardcore games.
Sure, yeah.
And so you can have one AAA release a year and then a handful of Telltale game style things.
License other,
Yeah.
just get that game on your console.
Other things here and there. But I would be totally willing, again, the whole episodic games thing, I would love to play a AAA style. I'll just pull out Control, just randomly,
Sure.
a very, very narrative focused game.
Yeah.
But play it episodically, where the chapters, or even we just played a Plague Tale Innocence, and there were very clear chapters in that.
17 chapters.
Yeah, just release one,
one a week
or two a week, because
Two
it's
a
17.
week.
Yeah,
They're fairly short.
yeah, and you get to play through them, and so they're much more serious, active games, but release them episodically, and I'm into that. I really, really am.
Sure.
On that note, though, I will say that if you do have to create a peripheral for it, if you do want to create the Netflix controller or whatever else,
Sure. Yeah.
you got to make that affordable.
Well, 100%.
Yeah. So you were kind of talking about this before, is it can't be a $50 or even like $100 controller or anything like that. You can buy a remote, or like a Roku remote, for $10 right now, or whatever.
Right.
So if you're going to make sure that you have a peripheral, if you're going to say, if you want to do this, you have to have this, make that affordable.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd say even maybe go the Steam route, where the Steam controller is not necessary.
Right.
But there are clear advantages to having it for playing games that are originally intended to play with like PC controls. They attempted, and from what I've seen, did a fairly good job at translating a keyboard and mouse to a controller, and they did that through like button remapping and just being able to add as much customizability. So I think that if you're going to go with, we have a Netflix controller that's really good to use for our platform, but also you don't need it.
Yeah.
Then you'll get some buy-in, but like you'll not lose those people that say, oh, it's not that important, I already have a PlayStation 5, I don't need to, like if I have Netflix and if I could just jump in and try some games without any additional commitment right off the bat, then I would definitely try some of those games. But if I needed to buy a controller, I absolutely would not. That's a personal choice, but I absolutely would not, and I'm probably not the only one.
All right, my last one that I think that would be really cool, and this is the one that I think is kind of would be great. I don't know that they do this though, but is pick up some old lapsed IPs.
Yeah.
Grab some old IPs that nobody has licensed anymore.
Sure.
And make something new from it. Even if it's something cheap or silly, something that will turn some heads and be like, wait, they're doing a Duke Nukem game? Like Duke Nukem goes to sexual harassment training or something like that, And so something ridiculous, something fun, but something where the name will turn people's heads on their own. If you come out with a lot of either just like shovelware mobile stuff, or a lot of just your own first party IP, it's going to be a little bit, what is anybody talking about? I don't know if I want to play that, but if you can grab some old lapse IPs and toss them up there, and some names again that'll turn some heads, I think that would be really beneficial.
I think games preservation is a thing that is increasingly needed to be given more focus, because there's a lot of games that literally are unplayable anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you have maybe some kind of very obscure system or a very specific kind of computer or something. And if you just said, hey, this is the only place you can play that game from 20 years ago, here you go. Like that's going to attract some people, as well as be very low. Like there will not be a It will not be difficult to stream that to anybody because it'll be
Right.
super low amount of data needed. Like that's going to be a big deal for people, I think, also. Another thing I would say is Netflix has clearly learned that even like intellectual IP branded stuff like The Witcher and whatnot. The Witcher has never been for kids TM, but they've clearly seen that you can Castlevania, the
Yeah.
anime. The games were violent, but they were like classic. I mean, there's newer ones, but like the classic ones were like SNES violent, where they
Yeah.
don't really seem, you know what you're doing. But the anime, quite violent.
Oh yes.
Real adult.
Yes.
Take that same mindset to your video games. And I don't mean that in the sense that every game needs to be a blood, gore, sex fest. I mean to say that recognize the fact that video games are not simply for kids anymore. They
Fact,
really
they're
never
mostly not,
were.
yeah.
They really never were exclusively for kids, but recognize the fact that all walks of life, all ages play video games. So that means you probably should have some kids games, especially since you have a for kids section of Netflix. But incorporate the fact that video games are for everybody, or there are people of all walks of life that play video games. You should
Absolutely.
like so cater to the entire spectrum of audience that we have. And I mean, I think with the IPs you already have, you can do Stranger Things for the teens, and your Witcher for the adults, and I don't know, like there's lots of cool things. I also think you already have a lot of cool IPs that could be translated into very interesting games like Altered Carbon, and there's a good amount of material you're already working from. We're talking directly now to Netflix,
Right.
So we'll bill
Hey-
you
hey,
for
guys.
this. This
Yeah.
is our we're giving you some advice.
No, I just Googled real quick. The median age of a gamer is 35 years old.
35 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't approach it with the like games are for kids kind of mindset, because that's never going to go over well.
Yeah.
And also you're going to be ignoring a big source of income from people who have income.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, that's all I got.
Yeah, I think this is a fairly short episode for us.
Was it?
As far as the nerdy gritty, I don't know. Maybe we just go long most of the time, and this was a fairly
Yeah.
short one. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to how Netflix is going to accomplish this task, especially with the fact that they are not intending on raising the price. That to me is kind of a red flag. To me, I
Well-
think the standard would be, for a couple extra bucks a month, you can play video games.
That depends on, number one, how much money they're making right now, which
Fair.
their subscriber base actually dropped a little bit, but if they're making a ton of money already, then this isn't going to be that big of a deal.
Right.
Number two, how many people they're expecting to begin subscribing with this. And if just by adding a video game service, they can add another 100 million subscribers or whatever.
That's where Disney Plus is right now. So I don't know
Yeah.
if it'd be that many, but yeah, no, I mean, having video games inherently makes you unique compared to other streaming content services. So I think that in and of itself, like you're saying, is going to bring some people in. I think this makes sense for Netflix. They were the first big streaming service.
Yeah.
And then everybody else said we can do that too. And other people have done it better or not. But yeah, I think they've looked at the streaming landscape and said original content only gets us so far, because now everybody has pretty good original content. So what's the next thing that we can add to our service? And
Yeah.
I think this makes sense, and I think it'll be a little shaky off the start, but if it gets some traction, then we could see some good stuff.
And I hope it's not shaky after the start. I hope that they have a very solid idea with what they're doing.
Sure.
Too many services let me try that again. Too many services have said, you know what, we should do gaming. All right, here's gaming. And then been like, wait, okay, that didn't work very well, like Stadia,
Sure.
some things that just were decently thought through. But I hope that Netflix is learning from other people's mistakes right now.
This actually, think about it, this actually might be what is needed for video game streaming to become more of a thing. It's similar to the PS3 having a Blu-ray player and
Yeah.
then Blu-ray becoming big because of that.
Yep.
This might be like Stadia tried, and they're still around. I'm not saying they failed, but they didn't take off like the next evolution of video games. But I think it might be easier for Netflix, since they're already an established thing that hundreds of, millions and millions of people have, to then say, hey, look, streaming video games are a thing. And then that to be the way that, maybe this will be the step for PlayStation and Xbox they're already pursuing streaming, but in the next generation, because Netflix has already done this in a big way and it's
Yeah.
huge, then they will put a much bigger emphasis on it. This could be like a step toward the future of video games
Yeah,
if it's done well.
Another step in the transition. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support. Let us know what you think about Netflix doing video games. Let us know what sort of stuff that you think could make them stand apart. We want to say a big thank you to Granger for the use of our theme song, All My Friends Have Wi-Fi, and so do some of my neighbors, off of the album Dear Sam. Go check out Granger. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And go check out our YouTube channel where we have YouTube videos.
That's
where,
true.
That's where we put our YouTube videos, is our YouTube channel. We're playing through, let's see, Piku Niku just ended. Or, no, we're playing through Plague
Tale
Tale
Innocence.
right now, which we've got a lot to say about.
Yeah.
Pretty positive mostly, with some complaints. And then next, I think we're going to be playing TikTok
the
the game, which
game.
I'm still not sure exactly what it is, but we're gonna play it, and if it's bad, then it's Dez's fault.
It is. It'll be my fault. That's true. I'll take full responsibility for that.
But I mean, it's not just what we're playing right now. We literally have thousands of videos from over the last 5 years that we've been doing this. And
Yeah.
if there's a video game that you think looks interesting, there's a good chance we might have played it.
We also, I don't know why I'm talking about this with you
That's
right
all right.
now.
Let's
but
let's
now we're
talk.
gonna finish the thoughts. I really want to play Resident Evil 5 and 6 with you because we have all of the other Resident
Yeah, it's
Evils
true.
on there
Finish
than 4.
out the series.
We have 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8
Yes.
all on there. So I want to.
I've
fill
played
that out.
5, but
So-
I haven't played 6 or 4. So
Oh man, 5 and 6 are just way action based,
sure.
but they're co-op.
Oh, I'm aware.
and that's what makes them fun.
4 is being remade
So,
as
yeah.
we speak. So
all right. Thanks again for listening, guys, and always remember that save games, save lives.
bye.
My voice sings